Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Final Whistle. David Giacomino, Kevin Walsh, Big Ant with us. And we have all settled down now. We've got Walsh under control. So we're going to talk some UFC. Big things going down. UFC 200 approaching. The recent update was they have pulled Conor McGregor from the card because he did not want to fulfill, obligations to promote the fight. He didn't want to come to Vegas to do the press conference that everybody else was doing along too. And he decided to stay in Iceland. He said he wanted to keep training. He told Dana White, maybe I'll do the other ones. I don't want to do your commercials. I want to stay here. I don't want to do the press conference. And Dana White simply said, no, you're not allowed to do that. Every fighter is obligated to go to these press conferences and do the promotions. And McGregor said, okay, I'm not doing it. And so Dana White said, okay, you're not on the card anymore. I'm taking you off. So, and with that, there's a lot of heat coming towards Dana White. He even said it. It's a very unpopular decision, but I need to do it. I need to treat every fighter equally. And this has happened one time before in recent, years, and he did the same thing. He pulled him from the card. It was Nate Diaz. So Nick Diaz. I'm sorry, Nick Diaz. I forgot. I knew it was one of the Diaz brothers. But anyways, same thing. He pulled him from the card, and he says he needs to do it. And he did say he's open to putting him back on the card. So with that being said, McGregor tweeted something last night saying I'm back on the card. But then then Dana White comes out this morning and says no, that's not true. So there's a lot of back and forth going on here. What's happening? Who knows? But I don't know whether he's gonna be on the card. I think he should be on the card because he's one of the top guys, and they want to make this pay-per-view one of the best of all time and one of the best buying of all time. He needs to be on the card.
Yeah, I mean it's not the same without Conor McGregor. I mean that's just really simple to figure out. I'm not sure what parts of the entire thing you want me to address because there's a lot to figure out. So I don't know what direction you want me to take this in. Exactly.
Like, do you think McGregor is right, or do you think Dana White is right?
I think McGregor's right 100%. I think that, you have to really evaluate the whole situation. During the press conference, Dana said the fighters want him up here. So Dana's big, argument is that it's not fair to these fighters. Well, the fighters want him there because he makes the fighters more money. So what are we really doing? And I think it's Dana White and the promotion that is UFC who's trying to keep their power. I don't know if you know Rory McDonald. I believe you do, Dave. Though I know you follow it a bit closer. But he tweeted out, and he's a bigger one of the bigger fighters for UFC. He has a chance if he beats Wonderboy Thompson in Canada to be the #1 contender to have a rematch versus Robbie Lawler. That was that match that happened before McGregor beat Mendes for the belt. That one fight of the year, that all-time great fight. And Rory was on his Twitter, and he was saying, more of us fighters need to support what Conor McGregor is doing. He's giving us a voice, and I think that us as fighters need to understand what our worth is a bit more. And he actually, there was a response tweet that came from Michael Johnson, who, ironically enough, a lot of people don't know this because Nate Diaz really seemed to take off only after Conor McGregor. Who Michael Johnson is the guy who Nate last beat before the Conor McGregor fight, saying not all of us are in the position that he's in to stand up for ourselves. And Rory responded by saying, well, then we should, support the person who made it to the point where he can stand up and represent ourselves. So I think that that's something that kind of, has to be acknowledged. Listen, the UFC has gotten to where it is because of its wonderful promotion and all the things that it does. But today, John Kavanagh was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, and John Kavanagh being the coach from McGregor, and he was saying, listen, $10 million is not going to make, a $10 million commercial is not going to impact how much this fight sells. The fight's already sold. It's McGregor coming off a loss. If anything, he made it bigger, too, by retiring. It's your biggest superstar, the rematch where, going into the fight, there was some doubt by people who followed MMA closely. No doubt, though, by the people who were just simply, only following probably like the way, you know, the bigger sports outlets promote it by just talking about how good McGregor is. But now coming into it, it's can McGregor bounce back? You know, how good really is Nate? Can he make the jump at 170? The fight is sold. Then you add the fact that he said he was gone and now he's not gone. It's double sold. And he's not also, he's not saying I won't promote. He's currently in the midst of his training camp that was over in Iceland. He said, I do not want to leave. I need to finish what I'm doing here. And the thing is, not every fighter was being pulled away from a training camp that they were in the middle of. And I know that, you know, you may say, oh, well, but these guys probably adjusted their schedules. McGregor's currently training with Gunnar Nelson, who's from his gym, who John Kavanaugh's training, because Kavanaugh trains, more than just McGregor. He's not, it's not McGregor's only guy. So that's kind of the schedule that he was on. And McGregor said, I'd go to New York. And I think this is the thing that people need to understand. Vegas to Stockton, okay, the trip from Stockton to Vegas, significantly shorter than that from Iceland or even McGregor's hometown of Dublin to Vegas. That's why I said let's do, I'll be there in New York where it's even, it's, you know what I'm saying, that the travel distance is real. I think that, you have to understand that. And to me, just the biggest overall point of the entire situation is it's not just how big McGregor is, it's how much McGregor has saved the UFC. Because when he had that chance to fight Aldo for the belt, so many fighters would have said, I'm not fighting for an interim belt. I could lose. Like, that's all of a sudden take this fight. He could have backed out. He said, no, I'm stepping up and I'm doing the fight. Then he had the chance to fight Dos Anjos for a belt. And what did he do? No, don't worry. I'll fight Diaz. That's the guy you want me to fight? Well, Diaz can't make 55. That's fine. I'll fight him even at 170. Just get him on the card. He's consistently stepped up and done some things that fighters would never do. The guy who they're looking to replace him with at UFC 200 is John Jones. A lot of people don't know this. There was an entire event canceled because of John Jones. UFC 200, this is their 199th. That'll be their 199th pay-per-view. There was an event canceled because John Jones refused to take a new fighter. So they canceled the whole thing. McGregor doesn't do that. He just goes up an extra 15 pounds from the 10 pounds he was already moving up to take another guy.
Which, I'll start off by saying this, out of this whole thing, I did not like the matchup. I hated that they made a rematch with Diaz and McGregor. I just thought it wasn't needed for it to be right away. Because, listen, even if McGregor wins, and he's very capable of winning, okay, great. He beat Diaz. But he's also lost to him. What happens? Do they fight each other a third time? Does this mean he gets a title shot? But he just lost to him. So I think he should have fought somebody else first. I think he should have, went down and defended his belt maybe. Maybe he fought at 155, something like that. I don't think he should have got this title shot. Not title shot, I'm sorry. This fight yet again. Because Diaz said at the press conference, McGregor wanted me. I didn't ask for this rematch. Mm-hmm. He wanted the rematch. So I just really thought it was strange why it's so quick. Maybe if McGregor won a fight or two and then went back up again. I just thought there was other fights that could have happened. So because what if he loses? What if
money?
Yeah, but what if McGregor loses?
But see,
what happens?
Well, you have to understand this though. If McGregor loses, what happens? He goes and fights for the 145-pound belt.
And then does he stay there?
What he
probably.
What he can
do
do
is about money.
So he goes to 100. He goes to the 145-pound division, and if he wins, then he can either then try and go fight at 55, where he was originally supposed to do this. Maybe he'll defend the belt again. There's still plenty of options. Here's the thing, right? So say he loses to Diaz, and then it's like, okay, you know what? We just really messed that whole thing up. Sorry, we're gonna stay away from that. I think you kind of had to do it almost immediately. You kind of had to get it, and it's just the way that McGregor talks about it too, and the way he is so, it's just so adamant about getting back in there and doing this again that, it makes sense. The thing is too, say he went and fought Edgar or Aldo, it doesn't matter for the belt, and say he went and fought Dos Anjos. Realistically, Diaz at 170 makes zero sense outside of the fact that that's the guy who we lost to. So if we kind of just allow ourselves to remove from that, the fight just loses what it's supposed to be. That's kind of the thing that and that's why the fight's at 170. This isn't about Nate Diaz. There are people saying, "Oh, Diaz is a superstar now. Diaz has all these antics." That's great. No one cared about Diaz until the McGregor fight. Being realistic, at least not the more mainstream fans, right? And that's just being honest about it. The reason why it matters so much is because this is the rematch, and that's why it's at 170, because it is the exact rematch to see if McGregor can do it.
I'm really torn on whether or not he's gonna win this fight, because we both agreed he won round one, easily won round one. He cut up Diaz round one, and he looked like round one was pretty much them standing and punching each other, and McGregor by far out hit him. Round two, Diaz stepped up and said, "Okay, let's go." Got him good with a couple of shots, and McGregor backed up. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with this fight, but I really expect it to happen. I can't see him not being on this card at 200. What they said is they're going to add another fight, plus they're going to supposedly find Diaz another fighter. But
Diaz is not taking the fight, though. Diaz tweeted out again, "I'd like to officially announce I'm going on vacation." He just literally tweeted this out like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, really?
I think it's kind of still more of a joke. I'm not sure how serious Diaz is, but, you got to be extremely realistic about this whole thing. And Diaz isn't fighting unless he's fighting McGregor, because no one cares if Diaz fights unless it's versus McGregor. Being real. We were going over this. Oh, what if he fights Robbie Lawler? Can I ask you this, Ant, because you're a bit more removed from the sport? If I said, "Hey, do you want to come over for Diaz Lawler?" Would you really care about that?
No.
What if I said, "You want to come over and watch the Diaz McGregor fight again?" I think you'd probably be
No. Nah, come over.
But I think that's kind of the thing. It's just like, Diaz's Diaz's big selling point, regardless of everything he's ever done. The biggest thing Diaz has ever done in his career was beat Conor McGregor. And
absolutely.
And that's just how it is. And the thing is, though, like, Diaz doesn't care if he loses. Like, he's
absolutely not.
It's different. And that's why, you
that's
mentioned...
why he's a dangerous opponent.
You mentioned, are we going to get a third one? Way down the line. Because after this fight...
He's going to 145.
He's got to do the 145 thing where he does that. And then... So let's just kind of, we can fake map it out, right? Does the Diaz thing, gets that win. Does the 45 thing, gets that win.
I think he'll go to Robbie Lawler.
And then I don't think he'd go back up to 170. Then I think he has to handle this stuff with Dos Anjos. Okay? The only way he would do
I think if at that point he'd be in the position to go get whatever he wants.
No. He listen, yes, 1,000 times over. But I think that there's a lot of opponents that Lawler has lined up for him. Tyron Woodley, the winner of Rory McDonald versus Stephen Thompson, and also the big talks about GSP. So there's actually a lot of stuff that Robbie they're gonna have to figure out with Robbie that there's no reason to force. And I think the UFC would rather do it, and I think a lot of fans, it'd make more sense for him to fight for the 55 belt before the 70 belt.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I think that's kind of the way it goes. One of the interesting things I wanted to bring this up, is people saying, Dana's trying to do what's fair and everything. I think Dana's trying to actually make this very, very personal, because he went and he said McGregor won't fight on the New York card. He said he's going to fight one of these two guys, and it's going to be sometime September-ish or something like that. That's really interesting if you want to really evaluate that. McGregor has always wanted to fight in New York. He knows how big his fans are here. When they had the UFC World Press Conference tour, when he came to New York, we have a good buddy who went to that.
I know.
Who you can vividly hear on the press conference shouting. I mean, the people absolutely love him here. Absolutely love him. It's like Dublin Part 2. It's almost as big as it is when he goes to Boston. It'd be a huge fight for him. And realistically, when you think about it, right, Aldo and Edgar, when you just think about the two styles of the guys, definitely a 5-round war is what you could be in store for. Definitely that could be what you get. Now, Edgar maybe could knock him out. Aldo could knock him out. You don't know. You don't know exactly how to go. You never know what's going to happen in the UFC. Anything can happen in the UFC. But if you get this 5-round war that people are anticipating and excited for,
people expected that with the McGregor Aldo fight.
but well, Edgar doesn't have as much punching power though as. But this is my point. They're not going to be ready for September, and no way does Aldo say, "Oh yeah, I'll be ready in September." Aldo takes like 6 months off in between fights, and I doubt Edgar would want to rush it. Edgar's a New York guy. Why wouldn't he say, "No, just wait till November. I'll fight in New York." So I think that kind of gave a bit of insight into Dana almost making this to be seem somewhat personal, where he's not only pulling him from 200 now he's going to pull him from New York, and he's going to almost try to make a statement. You know, the big difference too is you mentioned the Nick Diaz thing. Nick Diaz just didn't show up. It's the Diaz brothers. He's like, I'm not going. I don't care. I don't need to be here.
Yeah, and
Conor's reasoning and situation is very different.
Which I think is why he'll end up being on the card. So, with all that being said, I think it puts the UFC in a very bad spot if they don't put him on this card. So I think he'll end up being there. So
I think really it reflects very badly on Dana White and the UFC if he's not on the card. To be completely honest,
because he's gonna lose a lot of money.
Because seriously, you know, what is think about what the card was with McGregor on, right? The 4 biggest fighters were McGregor, his opponent, who's big now because he beat McGregor, and then the number 1 contender match to fight McGregor. You really could have called it UFC McGregor. It's what it was. You know what I'm saying? So now you lose McGregor, you lose Diaz. I believe, I'm not positive on this, I believe the stat was, though, the Aldo Edgar, last time they fought, that was the lowest selling UFC pay-per-view in history. And then you have, the potential of Jones Cormier, which is a great fight, huge fight, would sell massively. Not doing McGregor numbers, I promise you that, though.
Nothing's doing McGregor numbers. So, I mean, we'll end up on that.
Will the Rousey return possibly do that?
She's not coming till November.
No, I'm talking about numbers, not UFC 200.
She's still not McGregor. McGregor actually has, in the history of the UFC's events in the USA, the 3 biggest ones are his last 3 fights. He's made the company $400 million in the last 8 months. And as you know what I'm saying, like as big as Ronda is, you put McGregor and Ronda on the same card, Ronda's the co. She's the co-main event. Same thing if Ronda was on the card.
I think that's always like a man thing, though, right?
I think Ronda might be on the New York card.
No, she is. That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's for her to be on the New York card.
If they put McGregor on it like they were planning to, that's going to be huge.
Oh no, the MSG card is going to be massive. I mean, you get how it should look is Ronda, whether it be versus Holm, but I think it should be for the title for Tate, and that's what they said. Yeah. But you don't know how injuries could be. And if Ronda says, like, I'm ready now and I want to do this now, so you could see that. And then you get, if Weidman beats Rockhold,
that'll happen again.
Weidman said, no matter what, even if Weidman loses, Weidman's on this card. It just is a matter of if he brings a belt to the card. You know what I'm trying to say?
Of course.
As like if he's defending a title, is that my point? That's my point. Like if he loses, like then it's just Weidman will be on the card. It's not as big a deal, but if you get that championship on the belt on the line,
it's huge.
That's a huge deal. But, then you get McGregor.
The third fight.
No, well, Ronda would actually be the third fight.
I don't.
No.
Ronda sells more than.
So the UFC, no matter what, always went by weight class. And then McGregor just changed it all because of, again, that's a McGregor thing. McGregor's changed it to where just weight class goes. So they would still then say whether it be Weidman versus Jacare or Weidman versus Rockhold 3, that'd be third. And then you would have the McGregor Aldo going in for, or McGregor Edgar in New York being the main event.
I would run there to get, if that was.
It's an outrageous card. It's an outrageous card. But that's why they've been waiting so long for it to be legalized here. And it's an outrageous card. So, it's huge. Realistically, though, it's now, I feel like, the UFC brass is almost like kind of scared to say, like, you know what, Conor, you can be on the card.
Because then he wins,
But again,
that's what it is. He and I think Dana White has a big ego.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it's a win for more than McGregor. It's a win for the fighters because it
then-
shows
because
how
then
valuable they can
The
be.
next guy that doesn't want to do it is going to do the same exact thing.
But again, you have to be in a position where you can at least. To me, the biggest point of this is, again, and I've made this clear, is not how much McGregor sells. That's the obvious thing. But to me, the real reason why they shouldn't be doing this is how many times McGregor has saved them. That's where I think that they should really be taking a look at this and saying, you know what? All right, he didn't make it out to the big press conference. Guess what? More people tuned into this than if he would have been there, probably, because they wanted to see what the announcement was going to be. It's fine. We didn't shoot Diaz's commercials yet, so when we reschedule that, they didn't shoot Diaz's commercials when they were in Vegas. So guess what? They got to shoot him again anyway, right? If you get Diaz a new opponent, all right, fine. So we'll shoot him a different time. We're going to do it in New York, and that's what it is. And maybe now we can consider ourselves even as far as favors go, because that's just kind of how it goes. That's just kind of how it is. And I think that the right decision is Dana's thing was it's the unpopular decision, but it's the fair decision. No. The right decision is Conor McGregor being the headline main event of UFC 200.
All right. On that note, we'll wrap it up. We both agree on this one. We'll see what happens in upcoming days, because I think something will happen to force them to make a decision and to announce something.
You'll know in a week.
Yeah. So on that note, UFC 200, what's gonna happen? We'll just have to wait and see.
Comment down below. What do you think happens? Is Conor going to be on the card? Drop it in the comments.